Hey everybody, it's Wednesday, middle of the week, day before Thanksgiving. Oh, I love Thanksgiving. I love to eat, and I have so much to be thankful for this year. It just seems like we have been blessed so much, and things are just going great in our world, and we are so grateful for the fostering experience that we get to do. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about investigations. And I think it's so important that we know the investigation process from the time the hotline is made until the little treasure arrives at our doorstep. Because a lot of times I don't think we as foster parents understand everything that the child has been through. Even as kinship parents, I don't think that we realize everything the child has been through. There might have been an investigation where they had to do an interview with the child. So many things have transpired, and yet they're taken away from their home as well and put with a brand new family. We got Courtney Lavelle as our special guest, and if you've seen her on Foster Life before, she is a wealth of information. She's got her master's degree in forensic psychology, and she just knows so much, and she can teach us so much. So I'm ready to learn today. If you're ready to learn, we'll have Courtney on the set right after this on Foster Life. Back to Foster Life, everybody. We are with Courtney Lavelle today. We have big news.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so Courtney was on the show last week, and she was talking about
medication and consequences.
Yeah, and we just thought that it turned out really well. So we have offered for you to come on the show once a week.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it too.
Yeah, and so she'll be talking to us about different things in care, and she's got an amazing degree. She's got a master's in forensic psychology, and then she has a bachelor's?
Yep, a bachelor's in social work.
In social work. So very educated, knows a lot about the system, and I think she's going to just be a tremendous help on our panels and as well. Today we're talking about investigations.
Yeah.
Now, is it true you used to be an investigator?
I did investigations in the state of Kansas.
Oh, okay. So each state is different. Is that right?
Yeah, so the federal system controls the child welfare system, but each state, just like each state has its own laws, they have their own child welfare system.
Right.
So each state's got a little bit of a different take on it and timelines and all that good stuff.
Okay, so basically we're going to give you the basic picture of what an investigation is like, and we're going to go by our state here. So if some of it's not exactly the way your state does it, that's just because we're doing it based on our state here. But the basic process is there. The reason why it's so important that we know the process is when we get these children in our home, I think it's important that we really know what they've been through in the last however long. I don't even know how long an investigation takes. So if we can talk about that, it'll give us a better picture of what they've been through when they come to us, so that we can be a little bit more understanding and know. Because I know for me, in our experience, because of what they've been through, has probably been a little traumatic. We've been really hesitant to ask questions, and we kind of only go there if they start talking to us. So I think it's good to know kind of the process. So a hotline comes in.
Yep, so a hotline comes in, and hotlines can come from anyone.
Right.
If you're a mandated reporter, obviously you have to tell who you are. If you're not a mandated reporter, you can remain anonymous. But a lot of times the information you're going to give to the hotline reporter is going to give away who you are.
Right.
So you're going to call in, and you're going to talk about what you know, who it happened to, and where the child lives. Those three things are the most important, and as much detail as can be given as possible.
Right.
From there, the hotline investigator is going to ask a whole bunch of questions. Everything from where is this child now to are there drugs or weapons in the home that you know of.
Oh, okay.
They want to get a very clear picture of what the house looks like, of what the child's situation is, because if they don't have that, they're not going to investigate, and that's just in this state.
Right.
Some states need less information, some states need even more than we do. From there, it goes to the county office.
Okay.
So once the hotline investigator has decided, yes, somebody needs to go out and see this child, they're going to send it to the county that the child lives in. So if the child lives in Baker County, it's going to go to the Baker County Children's Division office.
Okay.
And it's going to get assigned to a worker. And again, some states it gets assigned randomly. Other states, if that family's been seen by a worker in the last year, they might see that child again.
Oh, okay.
To provide that consistency.
Yep.
And other states, it might be 6 months, 8 months, whatever that looks like for the state.
And that could actually be helpful if it was assigned to the same worker, because they've already been there, talked to them, and so they have a little history with the family and kind of know what's going on as well.
Yeah, and the child feels a little bit more comfortable sometimes the second or third time around disclosing something that's happened to somebody that they've seen before. So it'll get assigned in 3 basic categories: physical abuse, emotional abuse, or neglect.
Okay.
And from there it filters down to like sexual abuse, or if it's lack of supervision or abandonment, something like that. And it'll get assigned a time frame. So that time frame usually looks like there's 3 basic options.
Okay.
24 hours, or what some states might call a same day. You have to go out today before 5 o'clock.
Okay.
The second one is 72 hours, so you need to see them within 3 business days. So if it comes in on a Friday, you have until essentially Tuesday night to go out and see that child.
Okay.
Or a 10 day, or I think in this state it's 10 days. In Kansas it was 10 days. And that is like an assessment. That's like, there's not an emergency, but something's going on. That could be like domestic violence. Or the child was seen outside without shoes. Something like that.
Okay.
Something that's not an urgent issue.
Right. Okay. So there's different time frames based on the urgency. When we come back, we're going to talk more about investigation. Foster Life. I'm Rob, the host of Foster Life, and today we have Courtney Lavelle with us, and she's talking investigations. I think it's really important that we understand this process as foster parents and kinship parents, and this just gives us a little bit of information. So we just ended with basically there's different times that they have to follow up within 24 hours or a couple of days or 10 days. Based on what the hotline is. So after that process has happened, after that's been determined, then what happens?
So that's when the worker will come out and see the child.
Okay.
Federal statute states
Right, exactly.
After that, the worker will then go to the home and make contact with the parents. And typically, they want to talk to the parents again without the kids present, just to make sure that the child doesn't feel like they're being coerced into lying.
Right.
And they can get the most honest answers.
Right, exactly.
The worker will take a look at the home. They'll look at any bruises that the child might have that are reported. They'll look at the condition of the home. And they'll just kind of assess based on conversation. There's certain questions that they'll ask. They will tell you a little bit about what that report says. So if the report says Timmy stated that Dad hit him in the face and he has a bruise, they're going to look for the bruise. They're going to ask Timmy about discipline in the home. They're going to ask Timmy about a time when they were sad and different things like that, just to try and get at the issue. And then they're going to talk to Dad, and they're going to be very blunt and say something like, at one point in time, did Timmy have a bruise on his face recently? And then they're just going to try and whittle it down. And from there, they're going to go back to their office and talk it out with their supervisor.
Cool. So we were talking about this on the show yesterday. We had a guest on the show, and basically we were talking about, now sometimes is the hotline or the investigation just based solely on the parents don't have the knowledge of how they're supposed to handle certain situations?
Yeah, so sometimes it can just be what's called it's unable to handle, or like unable to assess the danger of a situation. So a worker will go out, and that's called an assessment. A worker will go out, and they will just simply ask the parent what they need.
Okay.
Like, we found that maybe you're struggling a little bit. What can we do to help you?
Right. And that's always good as well, because the situation we were talking about the other day was the mom was a new mom, a teenage mom, and she just didn't know that you have to feed these babies every 3 hours. You have to change these babies every and so it was more of a education thing than it was a criminal type thing.
Yeah, and parents can even hotline themselves if they're having an issue. If they have a teenager who's hard to deal with or keeps running away, they can hotline themselves.
Right.
And just say, we just need some support in our family.
Yeah, we actually did that without going into detail. We had teenage boys in the home, and they had gotten into a situation. And so as soon as I found out about it, because I didn't know. I was a new foster parent, and we were really new to all of this, so we just hotlined ourselves. And then that way, we were able to get support. They did send somebody out to talk to the boys, and then we were able to get the support and kind of the follow-up that we needed as well. So hotlining yourself is not a bad thing. It's a way to reach out. And the way I look at it is, if there's a situation that has come up, if you're the first one to hotline it, that shows that you take your foster parenting job very seriously. And so that's good. So once they've got out and they've talked to the supervisor, so we're now talking with our supervisor, and we're seeing kind of what the situation is. And what is the process there? What are you guys thinking when you're talking the case over?
So we go through everything we talked about. The supervisor and the worker will go through everything that they talked about with the family.
Right.
And they'll say, here are my concerns, but here's what I think is working well. And that's because we're part of a pilot program here in the States called Signs of Safety. Right. Where we determine what the parents are doing already to keep the children safe. So we use what they're giving us as information to figure out maybe this child doesn't need to come and care. Maybe they just need a little bit of extra support. So maybe they need family-centered services, or some states call it intensive in-home services. Just to kind of wrap around. Some states even call it family preservation services. Just to keep the child in the home, wrap around that family, bring people together, and give them the support that they need without having to bring a child out of the home. Right. In other ways, we might say, there's an urgent need to bring this child into care because there's an immediate danger to their safety.
And just so everybody knows, I've always been told, and I think you would agree, that taking the child out of the home is our last resort. That's like,
Yes.
we're going to try everything, and we're going to make sure that everything is in place. But the very last resort would be taking the child from the home, because we don't want to remove children from their family. I mean, that's not what this is about. It's about keeping the child safe. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that's really, bringing a child into care is a decision that no investigator wants to have to make.
Right.
But it is their job. It is important for them to say, this child can't remain in this home because there's an imminent danger to their safety.
Right. So once you decide whether they just need services or a removal, then what happens?
The services part is really easy. It's basically just making a referral for the family.
Mm-hmm.
The worker will go back to their desk, fill out the referral form, call the family and say, we don't think this needs to go any further.
Right.
I'm going to come out. Usually they'll come out and do another little assessment or like a visit.
Right.
Called follow-up, just to make sure that nothing else has come up. There's not maybe another bruise on Timmy's face.
Right.
And then somebody else from another service will come in a few weeks and work with them weekly. If it becomes an imminent danger issue.
Okay. So if it's a danger issue, we're going to address that when we come back right here on Foster Life.
Hi folks, it's Mama T here with Mama T's Cooking Big. Join us for the Foster Christmas Challenge.
On Foster Life, we are talking to Courtney Lavelle today about investigations, and I'm learning a lot. I'm getting a lot of information. So before we left for our break, you were talking about if the child just needs services and the family needs services in the home and how to get that support. Now, what if they're in imminent danger?
So imminent danger is something that requires immediate removal.
Okay.
And these things might be that the child is disclosed that there's sexual abuse in the home, that there's extensive domestic violence in the home, or extensive physical abuse in the home.
Okay.
That has caused damage. So bruises that are more than just a speck.
Right.
That are done, beatings that are done with something other than, things like that.
Okay. So, so how does that process work? Do you go out to the home and you say we're going to remove the child, or how do you typically do that, or how do they typically do that?
So in our state, that's typically done by the juvenile officer.
Okay.
So the investigator will make a phone call to the juvenile officer and present the evidence.
Okay.
The juvenile officer will write what's called a CS-33,
Okay.
which is an immediate need to remove form. It gives very minimal information.
Uh-huh.
And then they'll also write a petition, and they'll take that to the judge, and they'll say, this child's in imminent danger, we have to remove them today.
So the judge has to sign off on it before they can do any type of removal.
Yes.
And I think that that's important to know. Again, that just states if they're going to take the judge's time, there's something pretty extensive going on in the home. It's not just, they were running out in the backyard with their shoes off and no shirt and it's 30 degrees outside.
Right. In other states, it might look more like the investigator and a police officer going out
Okay.
and removing that child into an emergency placement
Uh-huh.
until the next court hearings are held, because sometimes they only hold them once or twice a week. So until that court hearing can be held, and that's when the judge will say, yes, this child is staying in care, or no, we can send them home with Family Center Services or Family Pres.
Right. So the judge has gotten the order. He's or she has signed off on it. Then what's the next step?
That's when the JO will send usually either themselves or a police officer with the investigator to go and get the child.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the most traumatizing part of this for a child.
Oh, I could only imagine.
This is the part that you picture in your head where a child is being ripped away from their family and coming to you with no clothes, no anything.
Right.
After this ordeal.
And clothes in a trash bag. I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate when I get a child that comes into care and they show up with clothes in a trash bag.
It's the worst.
And the one thing that we have to remember as foster parents, and it's hard to do, but you have to dig deep within yourself and you have to understand. sometimes these children have lived this way for so long that it's their normal.
Yep, absolutely.
This is how they live. So, not necessarily when they get to your doorstep are they going to think that mom or dad did anything wrong, because this is the way life has kind of always been for them. And so I think it's important as foster parents that we know that, that, hey, they might be really ticked off that this has happened because mom and dad have not done anything wrong.
Right. Well, and for them, like, it's their family. This is what they know. They don't know anything else. Like, they assume this happens in everybody's family.
Mm-hmm.
And so for them, it's just, you're moving me to a different house where it's going to happen anyway.
Right.
What's the point? Like, why did I tell you this? It takes a while for them to realize, oh, that was a safety issue. Oh, I was in danger.
And some children, and I just want to back up on what you said, some children actually feel that it's their fault. I should have never told the school nurse XYZ. I should have never told the teacher whatever. This is all my fault. And that's a really tough pill, I think, to swallow for any child.
Yeah, and children almost always know who they told that would have told somebody else.
Right.
They can almost always pinpoint it to the person, the only person that they thought was going to keep their secret. And be like, I shouldn't have said anything. Like, I didn't know I was going to have to go live with somebody else.
Right. Yep. Sometimes they go to somebody because they think that person's just going to be able to fix it, and don't realize exactly what's coming about. So once the child's been removed, how do they decide where the child's going to go?
So the investigator will contact as many family members as we know about.
Okay.
If we only know about one or two, we're going to contact them. If they live close by, we're going to go out. We're going to see the home. We're going to try and place them there.
And a kinship. That's what we would call a kinship placement.
Yep. And in our state, it's actually non-blood relative is what we call it here.
Okay.
So they're going to go out and try and do that.
Okay.
And this might also be a teacher who is not blood. It could be a teacher or a school nurse or principal.
Yep. Our little boy that we had early on, it just happened to be a family in their church. His family went to church every week, and there was another family that they were friends with. They were totally appropriate, and so they picked that family, and that's where his siblings went, and then he had behavior, so he came to us, but that's kind of how that all plays out.
Yep, and that usually works out really well. If it's late at night or if it's the on-call worker, they're going to call somebody like a foster parent who has more than likely a phone right next to them for an emergency situation like this, and we'll bring a child to them. But we always like to place with family. We don't want to have to move a child. Right,
and that's what we would call a family or an emergency placement, and they could actually be in that home for up to 30 days in our state. When we come back, we're going to finish talking about investigations with Courtney Lavelle. We'll see you right after this. Stay tuned.
Listen up, it's Mama T here. Guess what? Look for Mama T's Cooking Big only on Foster TV, coming to you in January 9th of 2019. Ciao, baby.
We are talking about investigations today on Foster Life. We have Courtney Lavelle with us. She used to be an investigator, actually, and so it's been really helpful to have her here, and she's given us a lot of information. Where we left off was, so basically, they're trying to find a place. How do they know, like, okay, this kid needs residential, or we're going to try to do a therapeutic foster home, or we're going to just, I think a normal foster home is going to work, or they need to go to an emergency place? How does that all come about?
Well, when we're talking about if they need residential, there's no way to know.
Right. Okay.
Unless that child came in to care because of their own dangerous behavior.
Right.
We're not going to know if they need therapeutic or residential services.
Okay.
Until the honeymoon period is over.
Okay.
So that's usually 2 months to before a child really shows their true colors to their foster parent.
Right. Okay.
So typically we'll try and find a traditional foster home or relative
Placement.
or non-blood relative home to place them in.
Right.
If that doesn't work, sometimes we use what's called a resource center. And those we usually only like to use if there's absolutely nobody who can take them.
Right.
Which happens a lot for teenagers. Or if they're a large sibling group and we don't have a family who will take all of them.
Right. So the resource center that I worked at here locally, basically, there was, it was like a shelter, but just for kids.
Yeah.
And we took them even, like if mom needed to go to jail for a week to serve her time, or she needed to go to rehab for a week or whatever, we would actually take the kids in under those circumstances too, and they're going to go right back to her when she was done, but we would take it just for those short little time frames too. But yeah, I can understand why resource centers would be like your last, because it's just like a shelter for kids.
Yeah, it is just like a homeless shelter for children.
Right.
I mean, that's essentially what they are at that point. They don't have any place to sleep, any place to go, and so we shuffle them off to a place like that.
So a couple of things I'm thinking as we're talking here. If you're watching this and you're not a foster parent, we need foster parents that just do emergency placement.
Yes.
And so when me and my partner first started fostering, actually we were only going to do emergency.
That turned out well.
Yeah, it didn't turn out so good. And the reason being is because we would get connected in the 30 days, and then we would say, well, why would we want them to go anywhere else? They're already a part of our family. But we do need homes that can do the emergency placement. We also need people that can just do respite.
Yes.
And so in care, as an investigation, is sometimes... is it that the parents just need a respite break, and is respite available to the parents? Is that part of a program?
To the bio parents?
Yeah, so like if the bio parents say they have a child that's in the home and there's things going on in the home, but yet the kid is acting out, running away, maybe being dangerous in the home, sometimes do they do that as a respite, or do they just take them into care and then they go from there?
They might do what's called a diversion. So they might say Timmy is running away from home,
Right.
and he's having some behaviors, and mom just needs, a mental health weekend,
Right.
where she can just kind of collect her thoughts, maybe get some alarms and some sensors on the doors.
Right.
So they might send Timmy to like a family member or a family friend or church friend,
Right.
for the weekend to kind of clear his head, keep him safe without having to bring him into care.
Right.
But that doesn't happen very often in our state.
Okay. Yeah, so, but that also for our foster families that are out there, we definitely need respite from time to time
always.
and to take a break as well. So they've come into care.
Yep.
You get them placed. So now does the normal process just happen?
Yeah, pretty much. It'll be assigned to a caseworker, either a caseworker who works for the state, or it could be assigned to somebody who works for a non-profit agency that has a contract with the state to take case management cases.
Okay, cool. So when the kid gets to their home, does mom and dad already have the plan of what they need to do to start working services, or does that usually happen a little bit later?
It usually takes a little while. Sometimes parents feel really hopeless and they're not ready, or they don't want to work with the caseworker yet. They blame the caseworker, and a lot of times the caseworker is not the same person who did the investigation.
Exactly.
And the caseworker doesn't know anything about what brought this child into care other than what is written on that petition.
Right.
That's the most information they have a lot of times.
Yep.
And so parents don't want to work with that caseworker.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes it'll be upwards of a month before that agreement of this is what needs to happen, this is what you need to show before your child can come home, is really established. and it's usually signed by a judge, so sometimes it takes a little bit longer.
Okay. So one of the things that I'm a big believer in when a child comes into your home, if they're going to be doing supervised visits or whatever the visit situation looks like, one thing you can do as a foster parent that's going to help with the transition, not only for the child but also for the parent accepting you, is get that visit set up as quickly as possible. We try to do it anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. And I know your state, we all have different things that we have to do when a child comes into care. We have to do wellness check and all of these things. But I really try to get that visit set up right away. One, it helps build trust with the child. You're on their team and they see you advocating for them right out of the gate. Secondly, it shows the parent that you're on their team and that you're advocating and you're going to do whatever you can to help them through this process. And I think that that's a big thing. So many times I go to these meetings and I hear that the foster parents are not working with the bio parents. And really, if you're fostering, that's part of the picture. That's part of the puzzle. And me and my partner have found so much success, and there's so much maybe healing and so much that can happen for that family if you're willing to help out. And I've not always worked with easy moms. I can tell you right now, I've had some crazy one. I had a mom that used to, during the supervised visit, scratch the baby with her nails and then try to say that something was going on and, that type of thing. So it's not always easy to do, but if you can do it, it can work for you. And the interesting thing about it is reunification is always the goal.
Yep, it's always the number one goal. And it's always a requirement of our foster parents that they be on board with reunification, because that can happen at any time.
Right.
Also, just kind of going back to what you were saying about you working with the parent.
Yep.
That gives the child in your home permission to be happy.
Right, exactly.
Permission to smile,
Yep.
and to laugh, and to enjoy, the little things that the foster family is going to be able to do with them that are
Right.
fun. Instead of that child being like, I'm betraying my family. If the foster family has a good relationship with the bio family, it's like just giving them that permission, like, okay, mom is working on what she's got to work on.
Yep.
I don't need to worry about it right now. I can be happy. I
Yep.
can go and have ice cream and laugh and play and get new toys.
Yep.
And that's okay because my mom is okay with it.
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right. And the interesting thing is, on every single one of our kids that we have, we worked with the parent. When the goal changed from reunification to adoption, every single one of our parents for the kids that we have came to us and asked us if we would adopt their child and take care of them. So that means that we built trust with that parent. We built a relationship there, and I think that that's very important. When we come back, we're going to be wrapping up investigations right here on Foster Life. Back to Foster Life. We've been talking with Courtney Lavelle today about investigations, and you have given us so much insight and good information. And I think, like I said at the top of the show, it's so important for us to know the process as foster parents, to know exactly what this child has gone through in the days before they came to us, and that way it kind of helps us to know how to talk as well. So I want to thank you. We're going to see you back next week. You're coming every week, one show a week, and you're going to share your thoughts and your stuff, and we'll talk foster care. Do not forget the Foster Christmas Challenge is coming. It is so easy to get involved. All you have to do is share the video on our Foster TV Facebook page. Go out, buy some gifts from 0 to 19. You can buy one thing, 100 things, 2 things, whatever you want to do. Then take a picture or a short video with your family or yourself and your contribution. Post it on our Foster TV Facebook page. Then deliver it to your local DFS or Family Services office in your area, and they'll make sure that they get to the foster kids in your community. After that, go back to Facebook and challenge 3 of your friends to do the Foster Christmas Challenge. Until Friday, enjoy the rest of your week. It's been good having you right here on Foster Life.